Hello again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather on the 13th day of May 2022. Up first, hazardous weather graphic. Not much on here, just a advisory, and that's a winter weather advisory for the greater Denali Park area, and that's out until 10 p.m. this evening. Could see an additional couple inches of snow or so, and that'll give a total of anywhere from 6 to 10 inches there, so pretty decent mid-May snowfall occurred there, as well as other areas over the west and northwest interior and higher elevation south central Alaska. And from there, that's no other watches, warnings, or advisories around the state. Big area high pressure controlling the Bering Sea and the Aleutians, and then not so impressive low pressure area in the Gulf of Alaska, and then a weakening system coming across the Bering Strait coast here over the next 24 to 36 hours or 48 hours. So no other watches or warnings in the offing here through the weekend. And on satellite imagery, you can see all the cloudiness that brought the rain and snow to wetting rains and snow, anywhere from 0.05 of an inch water equivalent to 1/3 of an inch falling into the southeast interior, northward into the Fairbanks area, and even farther north than that, kind of tapering off from west to east, kind of elongated trough digging southward. So you can see the cloudiness kind of rotating around the developing low center south of the Kenai Peninsula there, but the showers diminishing, and sunshine, partly cloudy or partly sunny conditions south central Alaska today. But showers continuing over much of the eastern and southeast interior, and southern southeast coast, a few scattered showers with the cloudiness down there, kind of a very weak low there over Dixon Entrance, bringing some light rainfall amounts to the Prince of Wales Island area, Ketchikan, Metlakatla, but nothing significant. And Kodiak Island starting to clear out now, some lingering clouds there on the west side of the island, but sunshine in Bristol Bay, sunshine eastern Bering Sea there, Nunivak Island to St. Lawrence Island, up into the Seward Peninsula, Kobuk Valley, and then variable clouds through the western interior. And out to the west, you can see another weak band sliding eastward there into the northwest Bering Sea, but high pressure keeping any storminess well to the southwest or west and directing weaker systems up and through the Russian Far East, and they kind of take off to the east and northeast, head into the northern Bering Sea and the Arctic Ocean there, western Arctic coast. You can see some cloud sliding southeastward there into the western Arctic coast with maybe some flurries associated with it, but nothing really much reported at all up there at any of the reporting locations that I saw. But some areas could have had a light snow shower or two. Anyway, high pressure ridging in from that strong center over the southern Bering Sea, making for light winds and some clearing, especially over the western part of the state today, down to Bristol Bay. And that developing low south of the Kenai Peninsula, not particularly strong, keeping the shower activity going, Kenai Peninsula up into the Matanuska, maybe Susitna Valley, as well as much of the eastern interior, in the form of rain or snow, depending on what time it felt during the day today, and of course your elevation. And some clearing on the North Gulf Coast, clearing out over Kodiak Island, and those northwest winds, a little gusty through the passes of the Alaska Peninsula there, and the Aleutian Range, maybe up to 25, 35 miles an hour in gusts. But for the most part, light winds in the Gulf of Alaska, Bering Sea, looking at light variable winds there throughout much of the area. A little bit of moisture trying to work into the Shimiya 2 area, but whatever, if anything did get in there, very light, not much of a in the way of winds. For tonight, high pressure controls the Bering Sea and the Aleutians, and the gradient between that high center north of Atka and the low center in the southern Gulf of Alaska there will create northerly winds, a little gusty, again 15 to 30 miles an hour in gusts there, a little bit of an increase in the winds for Kodiak Island, and Kamishak Bay, Barren Island started to see an increase in the winds to at least small craft advisories later tonight through tomorrow. And then lingering rain and snow showers, upper level trough continues to squeeze moisture out of the atmosphere with the lift there. So scattered showers, especially over the mountainous terrain, Independence Mine, Talkeetnas, up over toward the Wrangles and into the upper Tanana Valley 40-mile country, and scattered showers over the Panhandle. Weak trough, kind of that weak low center, weakens into a trough, keeps the shower chances, especially over the southern southeast coast. And then for tomorrow, that low center drops a little farther south there into the northeast Pacific, but circulation around that may kick off a shower or two on the east side of Kodiak Island, otherwise dry with light winds. Isolated rain and snow showers over the mountainous terrain, Kenai Peninsula, and all of south central Alaska, Talkeetnas, and the Alaska Range especially has a pretty good chance, especially on the northern slopes there, seeing some moisture throughout the day tomorrow, but all in a decreasing mode. And mostly cloudy, scattered showers for the Panhandle, mostly sunny from the Arctic coast into the western and central interior areas. And big high pressure out over the Bering Sea, southern Bering Sea, keeps winds light and conditions dry with a fair amount of clearing in some areas there once again. And system weakening as it pushes eastward there, but should kick the winds up a little bit there for the western Arctic coast, Point Hope, Cape Lisburne. Maybe a little moisture sliding in with that, but that system weakens considerably, as you'll see, as it on Sunday, with the bulk of the moisture sliding northeastward. The front weakens into a trough, and look for some areas of light snow and fog, mostly flurries and fog, with very light amounts into the western North Slope, central Arctic coast there, back in toward Cape Lisburne, with isolated showers there from the north side of the Seward Peninsula to the Bering Strait. Otherwise, St. Lawrence Island southward to the Pribilofs, a little breezy. Maybe 15 to 20 mile an hour winds out of the north or northwest, and the risk of a shower or two for the eastern Aleutians. A little bit better chance for the Alaska Peninsula, that low south-southeast or south of Chignik. High pressure kind of retreats back to the west a little bit there, now centered over Amchitka Island. And so that does allow that moisture to work westward there into the Fox Islands, but still a chance of some showers along the Alaska Range. Partly to mostly sunny south central Alaska, dry with light winds over all of interior Alaska. Now that front pushing in toward the south coast of the Panhandle, look for small craft advisory winds to accompany that, with increasing rain over the southern Panhandle, diminishing to showers. North central Panhandle should stay dry from roughly Juneau northward to Haines and Skagway, and then maybe some sunshine, partly sunny conditions for Yakutat into Prince William Sound. Lows for tonight. Teens, actually 5 to 15 there for the North Slope, and upper teens near 20 for the Brooks Range. Northern valleys there, Kobuk, Koyukuk valleys down around 20, but upper teens for the Noatak Valley, Kotzebue, Shishmaref, and the Arctic coast. Upper 20s across much of the southwest interior areas. Lower 20s for Nikolai and McGrath, and 25 to 30 for the lows in the Tanana Valley to just a shade under freezing there at Eagle. Lows about 30 there in the Copper River Basin. 30s south central Alaska. Lower to mid 30s for the Alaska Peninsula. Upper 30s for the Aleutians. And upper 30s to lower 40s for the Panhandle. Highs tomorrow, mid 50s southern Alaska. Lower 50s for Bristol Bay. And then lower 40s out along the southwest coast. But inland areas though, 40s to lower 50s, but mostly in the upper 40s for the Tanana Valley and up into the Yukon Flats, and then in the 30s for the northwest part of the state and the Brooks Range, and 25 to 35 for the North Slope and the Arctic coast, near 50 for Kodiak Island. Low Sunday morning, again 10 to 15 there for the eastern North Slope, eastern Brooks Range area out to the eastern Arctic coast, otherwise 20s back to the west. Lower 30s there from the southern Seward Peninsula across all of the southwest interior areas, but still mid-20s for the Kuskokwim Valley, 25 to 30 again for the lows for the Tanana Valley, and mid-20s now for Eagle, and in the 30s for southern Alaska. Highs a little warmer, Susitna Valley trying to push 60, but call it upper 50s.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Farther over the eastern Arctic coast and North Slope, more IFR out over the southern Bering Sea, Pribilofs down to the Alaska Peninsula and much of the Aleutians, with marginal VFR northward across St. Lawrence Island, Seward Peninsula to the northwest Arctic coast, and covering much of the eastern interior, the band extending down across western Cowper River Basin, Madanuska Valley, Turnagain Arm, eastern Kenai Peninsula to the east side of Kodiak Island, eastward across the Gulf into the Panhandle, good VFR, Bristol Bay, Togiak Bay there, across much of the western interior, right up to the western Arctic coast around Point Lay. And for the afternoon, VFR expands, covering more of the interior areas, but we've got some IFR hung up along and north of the central and eastern Alaska range, with marginal VFR just near or south of the Yukon River up to the Yukon Flats area, much of the upper Tanana Valley 40-mile country, but south of the Alaska Range, VFR. Right on down to the North Gulf Coast, marginal VFR, east side of Kodiak Island, in across the Panhandle, and IFR still out over the Aleutians from Nikolsky westward to Shimi and Attu, and another band now, the next system extending from the Bering Strait coast, Tin City, Wales, up to Point Hope and Cape Lisburne. And for Sunday morning, that area slowly advances eastward, with IFR showing up now along the western Arctic coast and from Point Hope down across Shishmaref and Wales, Teller, those areas to Nome, and into the Yukon Delta to northern Nunivak Island. A huge area of IFR spreading in over the southwest Bering Sea and pushing east of Atka during the morning hours. Marginal VFR across the Fox Islands to the western Alaska Peninsula. Much of the interior of the state from the eastern Arctic coast southward to Kodiak Island, Prince William Sound, VFR, marginal VFR southeast interior to Yakutat and the southern Panhandle. Sunday afternoon, we've got a band of IFR stretched out along the central and western Arctic coast to Point Hope, Kivalina down to Shishmaref. Marginal VFR, western Seward Peninsula, eastern northern Bering Sea, with a zone of IFR across the Alaska Peninsula. Big area of IFR from Atka westward to Shimi and Attu, and possibly the Komodorskis. But Togiak Bay, Bristol Bay, right in across all of interior Alaska, looking really good VFR flying. Some lingering marginal VFR over towards Northway Tok, south of Eagle to Nebezna into the Wrangell Mountains, with North Gulf Coast VFR, IFR along the central and southern southeast coast. Passes looking really good for the Brooks Range tomorrow. Both Anatufik and Anagan VFR in the forecast, either approach Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR tomorrow. And rainy starting out marginal, trending toward VFR. It will become VFR probably by midday. Windy, IFR to start, hopefully VFR to end the day Saturday. And for Isabel, IFR, lowest conditions, northern entrance. Again, both for Windy and Isabel, that IFR will be on the north side, trending toward marginal VFR, improving throughout the afternoon. Mentasta, marginal VFR, possible IFR early on the north entrance. Tanita, marginal VFR to VFR, probably by mid-morning. Portage, same thing, marginal VFR to VFR by noontime, and through the afternoon. Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR. Freezing levels, surface south of the Pribilofs and from Kuskokwim Bay, cutting across southern Alaska right along the North Gulf Coast into the Panhandle, and 8,000 feet over the western Aleutians, central Aleutians as well, in the western Bering Sea, 10,000 feet over toward the Komodorskis, 2,000 feet along the Panhandle. Icing, areas of isolated, moderate, or mixed icing there for the Panhandle. Another zone lingering there along the Alaska Range into the upper Tanana Valley, and maybe that area over the southern Gulf of Alaska and the northeast Pacific, kind of big area of moisture there, might catch the east side of Kodiak Island, bringing a chance of some isolated moderate rime icing, possibly, but not too bad everywhere else. Jet stream, northerly winds, 90 to 100 knots there from the Kuskokwim Valley down across Bristol Bay into the Alaska Peninsula, with upper-level trough axis now shifting over the eastern interior, high pressure building over the western Bering Sea, central Aleutians. 9,000-foot wind flow chart showing north-northeast 40 to 50 knots there from the southwest interior across the central Alaska Peninsula. Northerlies 45 knots there near the Pribilofs, and at 3,000 feet, looking like that, turbulence, moderate chop for the Alaska Peninsula and western Arctic coast.
Why is plastic marine debris so common? We know there's trash in the ocean. Unfortunately, a lot of it is plastic. We find plastic everywhere, from the ocean floor to surface. The plastics are all shapes and sizes and all different types. We find plastics on beaches, and also inside animals' stomachs or wrapped around their bodies. That's bad news for our ocean and the animals that live in it and near it. It's also bad news for us. A recent study from the University of Georgia estimated that 8 million metric tons of plastic trash enters the ocean every year. That's like putting 5 bags filled with plastic on every foot of coastline in the world. That's a lot of plastic in the ocean, and it's there because, well, we put it there. The 5 most common items found during the International Coastal Cleanup are plastic cigarette butts, food wrappers, plastic beverage bottles, plastic bottle caps, and plastic straws and drink stirrers. Notice anything in common with those? It's a lot of single-use, disposable plastic. It goes without saying, we produce too much waste. That waste ends up in the ocean when we litter or don't recycle. Plastic is an important part of our modern lives. We use it for a lot of good things. But we need to take responsibility for how much we use every day and where it goes when we're done with it. The 3 R's can help, and it's up to every single one of us to practice them. Reduce your use of disposable plastic. That's anything you use once and throw away. Just use less. Reuse disposable plastics when possible. A plastic bottle makes a great coin piggy bank or watering can. The possibilities are endless. Recycle anything that can be recycled so it stays out of landfills, where trash can blow away. Ocean plastic is a huge problem that's only going to get worse. Unless we change our ways, we can do better for the ocean and for us. Why is plastic marine debris so common? We know there's trash in the ocean. Unfortunately, a lot of it is plastic. We find plastic everywhere, from the ocean floor to surface. The plastics are all shapes and sizes and all different types. We find plastics on beaches, and also inside animals' stomachs or wrapped around their bodies. That's bad news for our ocean and the animals that live in it and near it. It's also bad news for us. A recent study from the University of Georgia estimated that 8 million metric tons of plastic trash enters the ocean every year. That's like putting 5 bags filled with plastic on every foot of coastline in the world. That's a lot of plastic in the ocean, and it's there because, well, we put it there. The 5 most common items found during the International Coastal Cleanup are plastic cigarette butts, food wrappers, plastic beverage bottles, plastic bottle caps, and plastic straws and drink stirrers. Notice anything in common with those? It's a lot of single-use, disposable plastic. It goes without saying, we produce too much waste. That waste ends up in the ocean when we litter or don't recycle. Plastic is an important part of our modern lives. We use it for a lot of good things. But we need to take responsibility for how much we use every day and where it goes when we're done with it. The 3 R's can help, and it's up to every single one of us to practice them. Reduce your use of disposable plastic. That's anything you use once and throw away. Just use less. Reuse disposable plastics when possible. A plastic bottle makes a great coin piggy bank or watering can. The possibilities are endless. Recycle anything that can be recycled so it stays out of landfills, where trash can blow away. Ocean plastic is a huge problem that's only going to get worse. Unless we change our ways, we can do better for the ocean and for us.
the Great Pacific Garbage Patch? Well, first, let's talk about what it's not. It's not a floating island of trash like a garbage dump or a landfill. It's also not the only patch. They exist all throughout the ocean, and the Pacific Garbage Patch just happens to be the most famous. Garbage patches are large areas of marine debris concentration that are formed by rotating ocean currents called gyres, kind of like big whirlpools that suck things in. A garbage patch is made up of tiny plastic pieces called microplastics that are less than 5 millimeters long. It's more like pepper flakes swirling in a soup than something you can skim off the surface. You might come across some larger items like plastic bottles, but it's possible to sail through a garbage patch and not see anything. And they're a big problem for the ocean and us. People often ask why we can't just scoop up all the marine debris in the ocean. And the answer is, unfortunately, it's just not that simple. The first challenge is the sheer size of these garbage patches. They're huge. They're constantly moving with ocean currents. And there's debris from the ocean surface all the way down to the sea floor. Not to mention all the marine life we would disrupt if we tried to just scoop up debris. So what can we do? Well, the ultimate solution is prevention. And we need to keep that as our highest priority. We can reduce, reuse, and recycle to keep trash out of the ocean in the first place. And we can participate in things like shoreline cleanups. It's a lot easier to deal with debris before it gets to the ocean. Because until we stop marine debris at the source, we'll just be cleaning it up forever.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Not too bad wind-wise across the southeast coast. Inner channels, northern central areas there. Variable winds to 10 knots for Saturday. Seas 2 feet. Clarence Strait, southeast winds 15 knots with 3-foot seas. Central and south coast, outer coastline, looking at southeast breeze at 15 knots with 4-foot seas. Light variable winds on the north coast there with seas running 5 to 6 feet. And then the outlook for Sunday. Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, Stevens Passage, winds will be north at 15 knots with 3-foot seas. Small craft advisories, though, for Clarence Strait. Northeast winds increasing to 30 knots with seas building to 6 feet. Small craft advisories for the outer southern coastline. East winds 25 knots. And north to northeast winds on the north coast to 20 knots with 5-foot seas. Prince William Sound, northwest winds 15 knots, seas 3 feet. North Gulf Coast, northeast winds 20 to 25 knots, seas 5 feet. And for the Barren Islands, small craft advisories, north winds 25 knots. Kamishak Bay, small craft advisories, northwest winds at 30 knots with 8-foot seas. And Cook Inlet, looking at north to northwest winds at 20 knots. For Sunday, Cook Inlet, lighter winds, north to northwest, 10 to 15 knots, seas down to 3 feet. Much lighter winds for Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands. Both locations there looking at a northwest wind at 15 knots. And the North Gulf Coast, west-northwesterlies, 15 knots, seas 4 feet. Prince William Sound, northwest winds 15 knots, seas 3 feet. Kodiak Island, small craft advisories, north winds 25 to 30 knots. Alaska Peninsula, northwest winds 20 to 25 knots. And Bristol Bay, winds will be out of the north at 20 knots, seas around 4 feet. And for Sunday, for Bristol Bay, lighter winds from the west at 15 knots, seas down to 2 feet. Northwest winds 20 knots for the Alaska Peninsula with 4 to 6-foot seas. Kodiak Island, north to northwest winds at 15 knots with 3 to 5-foot seas. For the Fox Islands, variable winds 10 to 20 knots for the day Saturday with seas running 2 to 5 feet. Light variable winds for Adak and Atka under high pressure with 2 to 3-foot seas. Amchitka Island, winds will be southeast at 15 knots, and Kiska to Shemya, look for east winds at 15 knots. And for Sunday, Shemya to Kiska, southeast winds 15 knots, seas 4 feet. Amchitka Island, light northeast breeze at 15 knots. Adak and Atka, north winds 20 knots, seas 5 feet. Small craft advisories for the Fox Islands. For north to northwest winds, 20 to 30 knots, seas running 6 to 8 feet. For the Kuskokwim Delta coast on Saturday, winds will be northwest at 20 knots. For St. Paul and St. George Islands, variable winds at 10 knots with 2-foot seas. Yukon Delta coast, same forecast, light variable winds at 10 knots with slight seas. St. Matthew Island, southwest winds 20 knots. St. Lawrence Island, southwest winds at 20 knots. Then on Sunday, small craft advisories for St. Lawrence Island, north winds increasing to 25 knots. And the southwest coast, northwest winds 25 knots with seas at 6 feet. And the Pribilof Islands, small craft advisories, northwest winds 25 knots, northwest winds at 20 knots for St. Matthew Island. Eastern Beaufort Sea coast for Saturday, west-southwest breezes at 15 knots, but brisk wind advisories for the central coast, winds south at 25 knots. Brisk wind advisories also for the western Arctic coast to Cape Thompson for south winds at 30 knots. Cape Thompson to Wales, south winds 25 knots. Moving on to Sunday, wind switch direction. We still have brisk wind advisories from Wales to Cape Beaufort for north winds at 25 knots. Western Arctic coast, brisk wind advisories, southwest winds 25 knots. And for the central and eastern coast, winds looking southwest at 15 knots, but southeast 15 from Kaktovik to Demarcation Point. And for tonight, high pressure over the north slope keeps the Arctic coast and western interior. This links up to the strong high pressure area just north of Adak and Atka, so the Bering Sea, light winds, dry conditions. A little breezy, Bristol Bay to Kodiak Island, western Alaska range through the passes. Scattered rain and snow showers diminishing over the eastern and southeast interior. Scattered showers in the Panhandle. And for Saturday, a risk of a shower or two, eastern Kodiak Island, otherwise dry with light winds. Mostly sunny, Bering Sea, Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, western interior areas to the central interior. Lingering showers along the mountainous terrain of the Alaska Range, south central Alaska. And showers likely over the Panhandle. And on Sunday, rain likely over the southern southeast coast as that front approaches with showers to the north. Interior areas, mostly dry with light winds, some isolated showers.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.